Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Sinclair. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, though we are separate, Trashman brings us together.
Yes, I agree.
Now,
you should see my house. I need to call this guy.
Did you ever, as a child, did you ever have any desire to become a sanitation engineer?
No, it never occurred to me to go down that road. However, I've known a couple guys that did it, and listen, it's a good, solid, stable job.
You know, you're always going to be in work.
Yeah, you know, that kind of job, and I sort of look at my job like this. It's one of these jobs that no one really wants to do, and even in a crisis like we have today, it's an important job that has to be done. Sure. I mean, and when I say it reminds me of my job's nowhere near as important or as tough. But it's those guys are out there, and you talk about in a time like today where we've got all this worry about illness and stuff. Trash pickup is no happy task. Yeah. Now I don't know about your place there, Boat, but we've got the old mechanized trash pickup these days. Is that what you guys have?
You know, they had it for a while, but, you know, I'd say within the past couple of years, they've ceased bringing that truck around, and they've gone back to doing it by hand, and I'll tell you why. I think it's because so many people create more trash than their normal bin gives them, and, you know, the mech only works with the special kind of tote. And lots of people have, you know, auxiliary items that they're throwing out. And the, you know, part of the thing about paying your money is they'll take, as long as you're paying your money within reason, they'll take whatever you throw out. That's the only thing I can think about why they haven't brought the mech around. But I love that mechanized one, though, the way it tips the can up and throws it over. It's like a suplex machine.
Well, we got a note from our guys that said, listen, we're only picking up what's in your bin. Don't put anything else out. We're not picking it up. They're only sending out the robot arm, and that's it. The robot arm's awesome until something goes bad. Like, I remember one time I had a bunch of trash stacked on top of mine, and when the robot grabbed it, it just tossed trash everywhere.
Well, it reminds me when we first moved to our house, you know, we've got this deck out on our back porch, and I refinished the deck. I used they make this special kind of paint now. It's more than a paint. It's like a covering. And when I was done with the covering, I didn't close the lid quite as well as I should have. So when the mech picked it up, just brown covering all over the side of the mech. That's when I just hid in my basement. I didn't come out for a couple days. I didn't want to face the wrath of the trash man.
Boat right there. Yeah. That's vintage Boat.
Yeah. And there is a question in the chat. I said sanitation engineer in the front, and somebody asked, is that what they call bin men in the U.S.? And of course, two people not from the States answered, yes, it's not what we call bin. We call them trash men. We call them garbage men. Garbage men is probably the thing, right?
Yeah.
Garbage men are here.
We don't call them bin men, I'll tell you that, because we don't have bins.
We don't have bins. We don't have dust, and we don't have bins.
We have garbage.
We got garbage. We got real garbage.
And we don't have those anymore either. You know, we've got,
what do you call
What do we got? Big rubber gimmicks, you know, or plastic.
Yeah, it's like,
what would you say?
I think they call it a tote. I think that is the official name of it. If you go to waste management sites, they say, you know, you have to have a 50-gallon tote.
Yeah. You know, when I was a kid, we had the trash cans. And when I was in Charleston, we had a straight-up trash can or you know, Rubbermaid. You know, I'm talking about the rubber gimmick.
Yeah.
The only time we see the trash cans anymore is when wrestlers beat each other with them. I see them like
that's keeping them in business is the pro wrestling industry.
Yeah. It's funny, when I lived in Charleston, when I would descend off Mud Mountain to Midgard to put my trash down there, they would take anything. I remember putting couches down there, paint. They didn't give a crap. Whatever you set down there, you could probably wrap up a body. And they would take it. They took anything down there. But, man, they're a lot more strict up here. You can't just toss computer monitors and crap. I mean, you can. But they might get
the good times are over is what you're saying.
You know, we don't hardly do any recycling here.
No.
And I remember that when I lived in Charleston, they had a recycling can that you could also use. But Hurricane doesn't do any recycling,
what they've discovered is that the transport and processing costs of recycling in our particular area, outweigh the benefits. And the most ecologically responsible thing you can do with your waste is actually just to landfill it. It's really amazing. I read this big article that they did about it, and they said for most rural communities, they've stopped pickup recycling service because the energy cost of processing, sorting is the big thing, because you've got to sort manually because nobody sorts correctly, and then the actual cost of processing and the energy consumed within that processing negates any value of the actual recycled material, and and they say just landfill it. So,
have you been over to the landfill?
I've never been there. I know it's right down my road. It's literally on my road. The name of the landfill is Sycamore Landfill.
I've been there many times, and I can tell you that when you walk out of your car and you're actually part of the landfill, it makes you sad that this exists. I think of that poor Indian crying back in the 70s. He would be bawling and on the floor in a fetal position if he saw these things. And so what you're saying, I've heard this about recycling, but still, it doesn't make me any better at night to know that they're just burying stuff.
The only solution is for all of us to just use less, and that's the challenge. So,
especially today.
Yeah. Sometime we'll have to do a special report from the Sycamore landfill, Aaron. There are two places I want you to take me because I'm afraid to go there by myself. The dump and the landfill. Is the dump and the landfill the same place?
There are two different landfill type places out there. I'll put it this way. If you know those romantic images, you think I'm going to roll into the dump and, man, there's going to be an Amiga sitting there or some old books or nothing.
Just row old pinball machines like in Tommy.
That ain't happening. And you're not going to be like, I'm going to, like people are like, I'm going to go look to the dump today. No.
You want no part of that. Yeah.
You would sink that far into the dump.
Yeah.
You don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Remember the garbage compactor scene in Star Wars?
Uh-huh.
Picture that on dry land.
Right. On a massive scale. Yeah.
Yeah, no good.
Well, Aaron, let's talk about Trashman.
Trashman. Had you heard of this one, Boat?
This one, yes. I'd played Trashman before.
Okay.
I've done a lot of Spectrum streaming over the years on Twitch.
I've noticed that.
And it's one of my favorite consoles to stream computers, because you can get in and get out of games so quickly. They are designed for bite-size appetites.
Yeah.
And so I had played Trashman. I loved it then, and I love it now.
Well, let's talk about this. It was new to me, Boatster. So Trashman released in '84, published by New Generation Software.
It's like
sounds
Prince's
like one of Prince's old spinoff bands. We're both sad, aren't we? This was done by a fellow named Malcolm E. Evans. This guy did a lot of stuff, including The Corridors of Janan, Defender 3D, Escape. This one keeps coming up, Boat. Jonah Barrington's Squash. We got to get that one in.
Jonah Barrington Squash?
Yeah, we've mentioned that. I've mentioned that probably 10 times.
Oh, wow.
Not in 3D. That sounds horrible. Monster Maze 3D. He did all the Trashmans. He did Tunnel 3D and Breakout. This was on the 48K. I'm assuming that's what you played.
Yeah.
That's the one I played.
Yeah. I think there's only,
and I will say I played a couple different versions of this, so I must have caught some of these in like their re-releases or something, because I saw a couple of different interfaces. When I first started trying to emulate this, I had real problems finding something I could figure out what was going on, and it was all to do with the control scheme, which I'll get to that in a moment. This game supports a lot of different interfaces. The Kempston, the Interface 2. It has this thing. It supported this thing called cursor joystick. I think it's what it's called.
And that was a joystick that it plugged in, and instead of the Spectrum recognizing it as a joystick like a Kempston, it basically just rerouted the cursor keys to the joystick.
Well, guess what? I used that to play this game. Mm-hmm. It's the first time I've ever gotten to use it, and it worked. This also got released for the Amstrad and the C64, which actually I had a play on the C64 version of this too, believe it or not. Yeah, amazing. I've got nothing to do. So this was part of a series that included Trashman, Travel with Trashman. Who wouldn't want to?
That's right.
And Trashman goes moonlighting. Now, I didn't try any of these other ones. I thought we might end up getting to play
Good move, because I want to play both of those immediately.
So, what is Trashman? Trashman is sort of like, it reminded me of what would happen if you sort of crossed Paperboy with Frogger. You would get something sort of in the same realm of Trashman. I have to say, Boat, when I saw the still shots of this, I thought it looked good, but I thought to myself, this is a goofy premise. But then once I sat down and understand what was going on, it was actually pretty clever. Bo, I have to say, I'm going to tip my hand here. So you are the trash man. This game doesn't really beat around the bush. You pick your controller, you put your name on the registration card or fill out the application to be a trash man. And amongst the things you need to do or be able to hold your drink, I noticed that was one of the things you had to be able to pull off. And then you're set out on the road. Now, I don't know how long you got, how far you got into this game road-wise, but I read that most of the streets in this game are named after real streets.
Okay.
In Bath, you know where that's at?
Bath's in the southern part of England.
That is where the game designer lived.
Okay.
And it says here, the exception is Montague Road. I believe, is that the first road you do?
Yeah.
Which is in Saltford, a small village close to Bath.
Okay.
So there you go. So what are you doing this? Well, you're a trash man. You need to go and collect the bins from the various houses and dump them into the trash truck as it slowly makes its way up the street. Pretty simple. Now, what you have to do is this is not, I don't know, I'm going to ask you if this is the way trash pickup is in the UK, Boat. Because in America, we take our trash cans right up to the street. Right? In this game, these people are pampered, Boat. You have to go fetch their bins, and their bins can be all the way in the very back of their property. And oh, by the way, don't touch their lawn.
Right.
That's a no-no.
Right.
And so what you got to do is go and maneuver Trashman to go pick up their bin. He'll automatically grab it. You kind of roll over. You roll up to the back of the trash truck, dump it in, and then go put the bin back. You can't just, like in America, in the old days, they dumped the bin and then just toss it on the side of the road, wouldn't they, bro?
Right.
They sure as heck weren't going to put it back.
Oh, no. The idea...
It's a fantasy.
Yeah, the idea that the pickup people would cross onto your property, go to the back of your house, like the very back corner of your property, bring your trash to the truck and throw it in there. That's insane. That's insane to me.
It would never happen.
Yeah.
So, thank you. I'm glad. Because I was like, I thought maybe this is the way it was everywhere but America. But in America, there's a 0% chance your trash is getting picked up. You remember that episode of The Simpsons where Homer took over the sanitation department? That's what this reminded me of. When he had the guys, he was having them go in and empty the kitty litter and do all that stuff. And they had enough money to last like 1 week, I think it was. So once you get the bin and deliver it, and this, I have to say at first, I couldn't figure this game out. You're on a pretty tight time limit. And so I kept running out of time instantly. Well, there were two things I was doing wrong. One, I was walking across people's lawns. That's a no-no. Right. You instantly lose time. It rolls off.
It's not only that, but the most important thing is, and the only way you can survive in this game is to be invited in.
That's right.
Speaking of things that do not often happen in trash collection in the United States, inviting the garbage man in for a cup of tea or to check out your new ZX Spectrum.
Or to play with your son. Any of those things that happen in this game. I love the fact that they would just invite you in for drinks. Occasionally just be like, hey, do you want a tip? Yeah, I do. Now, the funny thing about the tips is, Boat, is that if you get offered a tip, you can walk in and get it. Or you can get offered a tip and do what I did at the start, which is just make a beeline for the door. Well, that's fine unless there's grass in the way. If you walk on their lawn, tip off
the door
table.
slams in your face is what happens. Yeah.
And now you have to go up the street. Like on the first street, you have to get 5 bends. And as you move up the street, the truck independently moves whether you're there or not. So sometimes you have to walk a little bit further to get to the truck. Sometimes the truck will even park in such a way where you can't get around it without going in a long path to get so you won't touch the lawn. Have you had that
never
happen?
happened to me.
That happened to me a couple times where I would have to go all the way down the road and cut onto the sidewalk because they had parked in the point where I couldn't get to the house because it was this game I wouldn't call it realistic, but it is amusing as heck because the little things, the little tip messages that come out are real funny.
Right, and so I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but I'm going to mention it one more time. So you've got a bonus tick down in the upper right corner of the screen,
right?
And if that bonus reaches 0, then it's game over. You lose a life, and so the idea, don't be fooled. It's not like you can still complete the level if the bonus reaches 0. That functions as a timer in the game. When you go into the houses, when people invite you in, that is the only way to get bonus time. And if you do not go into at least one of the houses, I believe that it's impossible to complete any of these levels. You just don't get enough time.
It took me forever to get off the first level. And you had really to get off these levels, you almost have to make a perfect run for me. I don't know about you.
What I did was I consulted the YouTube to watch this guy, Mr. RZX Archive. And the thing that helped me a lot was, at first my idea was to do what I think normal trash collection does, and that's go up one side of the street, complete one side, then go back down and do the other side. That will never work. It will never, ever work. You have to do both sides or else you'll run out of time.
He doesn't turn around. You know, in a normal truck, they'll go all the way up one side, turn the truck around, and then come back. Yeah, it won't work. Something else in this game that is amusing, well, it's not that amusing, is you have to cross the street. Well, this is where the Frogger element of this comes in, because there's traffic that speeds along, and some of these cars are booking it. And there's I couldn't sense a pattern to their traffic. And sometimes, I would have a really good game going, and then bam, ran over by a car.
And then it's game over for real. You don't come back. You have to start directly over. Yeah.
You've got 3 chances to run at a time. Okay. But if you get hit by a car, you're done. Something else you can do, I don't know if this happened to you, but you can get hit by your own truck, which happened to me a couple times.
I wasn't aware that was the case. I was never in danger of that.
You could get ran over by your own truck. When you get hit, an ambulance comes to pick you up. It's a big to-do, but you're dead. And then the funny thing is, depending on your score, because once you get hit or you suck, basically the game will badmouth you, and then it says, "Oh, by the way, you've been elected to the Trashman Hall of Fame." I don't know why. And he's right, because generally your score is garbage. No pun intended.
Yeah, and it's funny because this game. They could have made this game and make it not nearly as good, and it has nothing to do with the actual gameplay elements, the mechanics of the game. The way that you fill out your little card at the beginning, you're hired on, you're taken under the wing of your boss. He gives you tips or he berates you when he needs to. All the different, the messages that come from the people when you go in their houses. These are the things that make a game, something to remember.
And the Spectrum has a ton of games like this.
And this is another example. It's another example of how, you look at the Spectrum and it's nothing special in terms of its specs, but it's got charm in spades. And I'll take charm over good graphics any day of the week. Amiga. Sorry, I had a little.
Now let's talk about. Well, you're an idiot. Now let's talk about this game's graphics. They're good graphics. This game is one of the best looking games. In terms of what it's trying to pull off. It succeeds. You know exactly what's going on in this game.
It uses
you see houses?
Yeah, it uses every color of the Spectrum palette
perfectly.
It adds shadows. Like, it's crazy. Like, you wouldn't think that the Spectrum, or you wouldn't think that this game would benefit from that, but actually seeing the sun cast a shadow on the house, it really adds to the depth. And given what they've got to deal with in this game, I don't see how you'd make the one thing that I wish that they do is maybe every level change the color of the house and swap it out with the color of the car. I know you probably can't do both, but I would have liked to have seen that, because if you get, I didn't get super far in this game, but if you even get to the last level, the houses are still all red. You know, there is some variation. You go to things that look like warehouses where there are some some vans and trucks parked outside.
Like commercial buildings.
Yeah. But I would have liked to have seen a little bit more variation in the houses themselves and the architecture. But that's a very small complaint.
Yeah, that you also occasionally will come across a dog that'll chase you. There's a dude riding a bike. I hate that guy. You know, and I hate that in real life.
It's like this is the YouTube Karate Kid for Paperboy, where you know the dustbin man is the adversary in Paperboy, and in this game you are him.
You know, Boatster, this game is not easy. I will say that, but I mean I didn't do great, but I could get a couple levels in, and I went further in to watch how it looked. And this game it's like the Spokes game for the Spectrum. I mean, whoever put this together was very clever. Well, we know who did it. The fact that, like you said, they're shadowing. The houses have depth to the point where, in some instances, you have to walk behind the house where you can't see your guy until he comes out the other side because you're behind the house. The humor, the gameplay, it seems like a large world. It's not, but it seems like, I mean, there's a lot. You're in a neighborhood with a ton of houses. It seems like a big deal. I love this sort of game, and it's simple as hell. How this game didn't make it to your Ataris or your CoCos, I don't know if they could not pull it off. I mean, this game should be everywhere. Yeah. This should have been one of those games, Bo. Don't you think?
It is a shame.
It's perfect. It's a perfect type of game. And the thing is, I said it was sort of what happens when you cross Frogger with Paperboy, but really it's not. I mean, there are elements of it, but this is a game that stands on its own. This one came out of nowhere for me. I'd never heard of this game. It is.
I would love to talk to the folks at New Generation Software to see why they didn't put a version of this out on every single microcomputer in the world. Because this is a game that crosses all cultural barriers. I mean, like, it's not like this wouldn't appeal to Americans or this wouldn't appeal to people in Eastern Europe. Like, everybody has trash collection. It's part of life, you know? And
now, I agree with you on that. I did. Did you have a look at any of the other versions of this?
No, I didn't. I wish I would have. I didn't realize this came out on other platforms, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I played the C64 version of this. Also very nice. I mean, that's what makes me sad, because this made the jump to the C64 without any issue. C64's got some a tune, you know.
Does the pickup mechanic work the same way? I guess that is a small little complaint I have, is that you automatically pick up the bin, which means that it's hard to drop it sometimes.
To be honest with you, I'm sitting here trying to remember exactly. I don't remember any difference, but I can't say with certainty. I didn't spend a ton of time with it, but yeah, that was thing. But that game mechanic with picking up the can and having it automatically pick up. I can understand why it's there. I would rather it be there than not.
Yeah, because if you're trying, sometimes, especially if you can only drop it in that one place, getting it right and hitting the button at just the right time, that would be an issue too. So I agree with you.
There is something satisfying too when you go to the trash truck with that can, and by the way, your guy moves slower with the can. We should mention that too. When he's got the can emptied, he can move a lot quicker.
Only Toad can travel just as fast when he's carrying something.
Only who? Mind. I don't know. Is that a Mario thing? Yes. Anyway, when he dumps, there's something satisfying about dumping that bin into the trash can.
It is. It's a very good animation.
You never dump it once. You got to give it
the shake.
One of these,
yeah, I love it. So much personality from a little stick figure.
Yeah, but overall, not to gush on something. We had a guy. I remember a couple weeks ago, a guy was like, "Man, you guys are killing all these Spectrum games." We call them as we see them, don't we,
Absolutely.
Bo? I'm not gonna, and I'm not gonna blow smoke, but I like them. And this one right here, it's like it was made for people like us. I knew you would love it. I knew you would, because I know you, and you probably figured I would like it too. And it's a fun game, and it's another game where you can, if you're a halfway decent player, which we're not, the score mechanic in this would be fun to compete with. This would be a good high score challenge game.
Yeah, man.
And I like the touch that it's got real names and stuff in it. I just like, and the dialogue that comes out. I saw a ton of different messages too, so there must be a lot of stuff in there. I call this one a big win. Big win.
Yeah. Did you look up any reviews on this one, Aaron?
I did. Grab my sheet of doom here. So this one, excuse me, this one got a 8.24 on the World of Spectrum. ZX Spectrum Get Killed, 3 out of 5. That was out in 2011. I think those guys are pretty hard, so I thought it'd be better than that. Some of these are more modern. Eurogamer.net gave this a 9 out of 10 in 2007. In May of 84, Crash gave it an 83 out of 100. I think that's underrating it a bit. CVG gave this an 8 out of 10. Sinclair User gave this an 8 out of 10. So that seems to be the going score. This is absolutely a B title at bare minimum, Boat. Possibly, do you put this up in the upper echelon? Where do you put this? I mean, it isn't the most complicated game, but I mean, it's not perfect because it doesn't have like we don't want continual music, I don't think, but where do you put this? How do you rank this in your own, in mind?
Personally, this is a top 5 for me. I mean, this ticks every single box that I love. Box number 1, rural atmosphere, or not rural, urban atmosphere. I love games where you're walking around a city, Number 2, unconventional gameplay. You're not a dude with a gun shooting other dudes. You're a freaking trash man and you're doing your job. Number 3, small sprites. I'm a sucker for small sprites. Get out the big, clunky looking sprites. Like in a game like Trapdoor, okay, it's all right, but that's not my thing. My thing is give me something really tiny, but make them animated and give them some character. And the last box, charm. This game oozes charm.
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to fight you on any of that. By the way, I just saw in the chat that Paul Kitchen just said that he got to the last street on this and got over 20,000 points. That's a heck of an achievement.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Paul is, he's a gaming
player.
savant, Paul is.
You got him and your Bucko, and these guys are off the charts. I did not get nearly that far, but I think this is a winner. I agree with everything you said. Like I said, when I think a poster boy game for this system, this is it. Mm-hmm. This is right up there. And it's because it's simple too. Like my kid was watching me play this, and he was getting a big kick out of it. It's something that speaks to everyone, and it's generationless. That's what makes it fun. Big thumbs up. I'll eBay this. You can get these all day long, $4 to $7. I also want to mention that I like the tape cover on this. It's just a trash can with the cursive the Trashman written on it. But it's got that. That's another thing. That Spectrum. It looks like a Spectrum tape cover of that.
It reminds me of Jet Set Willie or Manic Miner. It's that spray paint. Yeah.
Manic Miner's even mentioned in this in a joke. I don't know if you saw
it's called like a Manic. I can't remember the joke, but yeah.
They were talking about that. They were talking about their son.
Yeah, a Manic Miner.
Like he's a
MINOR. Yeah. Maniac Miner, I think is what.
A good choice from somebody. Well done.
Yeah. All right, Aaron. We did get some reviews from our Discord channel. As always, if you support the show either on Twitch or on Patreon, you can post your own review for us to read on the show. FrodoNL says, one of my favorite games back in the day. Looking at it now, it's not lost any of its appeal. A simple idea executed in an interesting way. Nice graphics with very little color clash help making this a very enjoyable game with some humorous accents. There are just 2 weak points really. The only keyboard option is to use cursor keys, and the only sound in the game is a short beep whenever a trash can is picked up or empty. Music would have helped a lot. 7 out of 10. Just don't do what I did in my first try at playing this week. One really should accept invitations to come into the houses if one wants to be able to complete levels. I will say that I think music would have been a real detriment to this after hearing, again, Manic Miner, hearing The Hall of the Mountain King a million times in a row.
I think good music.
It doesn't matter. Like
nice.
Action Biker is another game that is similar to this. It also is out on the Spectrum, but I don't think it had music. But on the Atari, Commodore had music. Any tune that you're going to hear on repeat is just it's going to get to you. It's going to get to you.
I think a 16-bit version of this would be awesome with the music and the sound effects. expanded
Yeah,
neighborhoods.
but again, as
you know?
we've seen from the games like Chucky Egg, making that 16-bit leap sometimes is a very hard thing to do.
True enough.
Chris Foulds writes, "Who would have thought collecting the trash could be so much fun? It makes me ponder a career change. Nice simple graphics, lots of hidden little twists and turns, and a brilliant attempt at regional accents. Downsides are the annoying drop-off pickup mechanism that has you doing little shuffles to get rid of empty bins. 8 out of 10. Paul, aka Hermski, writes, 6.5 out of 10. A colorful game on the Spectrum that proved very popular in the 80s. This game reminds me of Paperboy. I was never a fan of either, but I could see the appeal. Even playing it today, I could not stick with it for long, as I found myself getting frustrated with the timed levels and temperamental player controls. However, it was original, boasting very attentive graphics for its era." And finally, Pixels at Dawn writes, "Very good looking game, and another example of unique specky action. I wish the game had a better difficulty curve, as without the comedic asides with the residents, you can't even get off the first street. But it's a lot of fun and has that one more game factor that so many games strive for. 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I will say, someone mentioned the controls earlier. If you're emulating this like I am, I found that what you want to do is set your joystick up and then set that cursor joystick as your controller. It worked perfectly for me when I did that.
Cool.
And that's not something I've ever done with any game before this one. So that's something you might want to try.
Yeah, if you have Spectaculator, you can just set your joystick to be whatever you want it to be, so you can have it emulate Cursor or Kempston. So there are ways around it, but it's good to know that the cursor key joystick is a thing.
Yeah, it's a win.
We want to thank Chris Foulds, Clive's Club member Chris Foulds, for suggesting this one for us.
Good one, Foulds.
We also want to thank everybody that's hanging out with us live. Aaron, did you know we're recording this show live?
Oh, I knew.
And it looks like we're having some issues. Your window got big for some reason. We've had this problem before, Pix. Nobody knows why and how Aaron's things get weird. But anyway, we want to thank Mastermod Pixels at Dawn Gaming for moderating our chat. FrodoNL is here with us. Real Reffy is here. Christian Roussel. Thank you guys so much. Paul Kitching, if I didn't mention you before. Everybody that is joining us for the first time, we appreciate you watching us live. And we do record this show Fridays around 3:30 or 4 o'clock Eastern Time. If you're always welcome to join us at twitch.tv/Amigos Retro Gaming. We want to thank our Twitch subscribers, Retro Jerry, Chris Fold, Silverstreak 72, Mohawk Mall, Pixels at Dawn Gaming, Christian Roussel, Tapes from the Crypt, Go Sub, FrodoNL, L. Curtis B, Duncan Styles, Kilobytes and Caffeine, Still Adolescing, Mitsuyama, Macintosh Librarian, Jost80, Barkbit, Rushi MSX, and Buck Owens. And Aaron, this week we have a special surprise. This week we are debuting a brand new t-shirt.
All right.
A brand new t-shirt. This is a t-shirt for our it was for anybody that wants it, but it was designed for our Patreon supporters. This is get it up here on the screen real quick. This is over at amigatees.com. You can check this out. This is a takeoff on the Manic Miner title screen, and it's an our Sinclair shirt with all of our supporters listed there at the bottom. So again, go over to Amiga Tees. You'll find a full range of Amigos retro gaming clothing over there. Everything from that Workbench supporters shirt that Aaron's wearing now to CoCo Tandy shirts, and of course the Our Sinclair shirts as well. And finally, we want to thank all of our Patreon supporters. And again, I apologize if you're watching the video. Aaron's video is getting crazy.
Sorry, I'm just sitting here.
Yeah. So we want to thank the following folks: Mark Downey, Hermski, Andrew Waite, Cap'n Crispy, Laurent Giroux, Gary Heather, Eric Nelson, Harbonaut, Graham Vebke, FrodoNL, Tapes from the Crypt, Pixels at Dawn, Chris Foulds, Paul Bossman Harrington, and Christopher Hassall. And Aaron, next week we are going to be playing Football Manager.
Oh,
I know how I know what a big soccer fan you are, and I know what a big sports simulation fan you are. So this is going to be a real treat for both of us. This was suggested by Clive's Club member Paul, aka Hermski. Now I will tell you this. I've never played one of these games. I've heard about these games, but literally my entire retro gaming collecting life. People being nuts about these Football Manager games for the various platforms. So I'm gonna open my mind. I'm gonna give it a fair shake, and I will report back next week.
Me too.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Until then, rewind tape
and press play.